Hi, it's Paula and welcome to this week's video version of Progress. Now this one is quite different and the newsletter this week, the written version of Progress was quite different this week. It was based on a diary entry an old diary that I found a few weeks ago, and an entry that I saw in that, which I completely forgot that I had. So the title of the newsletter this week was Growing Pains at 27, question mark. Okay, how do I start this? So the entry that I found in the diary was over 18 months old, so I wrote it about a year and a half ago, and at the time that I wrote it I was in Australia meeting Colum's family for the first time, meeting his sister and his brother-in-law and his two nieces, and we were there for 3 weeks and it was a brilliant holiday but there was so much stuff going on in my head. My voice is going. There's so much stuff going on in my head during that time, and I was quite emotional, and it was quite unnerving actually. I couldn't put my finger on why, and I was able to blame the jet lag for a few days, but not after a week. I knew that there was something up with me, and I needed to kind of just reflect a bit and see what was going on in my head. So one of the mornings I just grabbed my bag and I grabbed a pen and paper and I set off. I just went for a walk in the local area and grabbed coffee, and I just perched down at the base of a tree and I just grabbed my diary and I start writing. So this issue of Progress is actually, I'm just going to share exactly word for word a diary entry that I wrote a year and a half ago. So yeah, we're getting very personal here. So this is what I wrote. I'm very aware that a change is taking place. I'm holding on to the past, I suppose. I'm growing up and it's quite bittersweet. I don't really want to. But at 27 years old, I have to ask myself, is it not about time? Am I being over dramatic? To be honest, I don't think so. I think that this is another part of growing up. It's the in-betweeny stage. I love my poetic use of language. Obviously I'm not a child anymore, but I don't really feel like an adult. I have a bank account, I pay bills, I live with a boy, I drive a car and have my own business, which is all very grown up. But the next big milestones and major events of my life are coming soon. The traditional markers of adulthood, like buying a house, getting married and starting a family. I wonder if everyone experiences these feelings of apprehension and uneasiness. It's kind of scary, and I find myself looking back a lot. Being carefree, having fun, playing with bubbles, going to amusement parks and parades has always been a big part of who I am and what makes me smile, but it's all very childish. I mean, does all that get left behind now? I think it's scary because I don't know who I'll be as an adult. I'm missing my mum a lot now. I mean, she'll be gone 10 years soon. What would I have learned from her in the past 10 years? Would I feel more ready for the grown-up world of responsibilities? But in saying all this, I know that something great's coming. I feel like a caterpillar entering a chrysalis. I don't know how to pronounce it, I know how to spell it. Chrysalis. Anyway, enter its cocoon. She might know that she'll emerge as a butterfly and be able to fly, but I bet that the caterpillar is afraid of losing herself in the process. I think that's where I'm at. When I think back on how far I've come, all the changes I've made in my life in the past few years, how wonderful things have been, there really should be no reason to be frightened. So why am I? I think it's because I'm not focused on the future. I keep looking back instead of forwards. I know that if I look forward and try and direct my focus on where I want to go, it will feel a lot more secure. So, who do I want to be? I really have no recollection of writing that, and when I came across that a couple of weeks ago when I was doing a clear out, it kind of threw me because I was reading it and kind of going, sorry. I was reading it and wondering where that thought had come from, and I find diaries so fascinating, and I've kept one for most of my life. There would be periods and times when I haven't, but for most of the time I do, so I am able to look back and reflect on where I was. But as soon as I read it, I was just back in that moment, and I remember how I felt then. And I really did feel anxious, and I really did feel nervous. And I was having growing pains at 27 years old. Now, I find that funny now, but at the time it was real. And it might seem ridiculous, but at that particular time in my life, it was very real and it was very scary. And I think what triggered it was when we were over visiting Colm's relatives. I mean, his sister and her partner were in their 40s. Were turning 40. Sorry, baby. And his nieces were kids, like really, really kids. And I kind of didn't fit in with either group. I wasn't a kid anymore, but I wasn't a proper adult, and I think that just highlighted it to me. But I had to accept it, I had to embrace it, and I had to spend that time just kind of reflecting and getting it out of my head and down on paper so that I understood what was going on. And interestingly, that like less than 3 months after I wrote that, I got engaged. So, and like less than 12 months after I wrote it, we bought a house. So those traditional markers of adulthood that I felt were coming were there, even though we hadn't really spoken about it. But it's very grown up indeed in the last couple of months. But at some level I must have been aware that it was there and it was on the horizon and it was bothering me. But anyway, I was really, really grateful to have stumbled across this a couple of weeks ago, and I found it quite interesting. And I know that in conversations that I've had with some of my clients, that this is something that maybe they wouldn't describe it exactly the same, but this is some sort of experience that we all possibly go through. Now, I don't know if it definitely is, but I just wanted to put it out there and share it with you, just in case you could relate to it, if it did make sense. And I would be so fascinated and curious to hear that if you can relate to this kind of experience, that kind of knowing that you're in a in-betweeny stage between a child and an adult in your 20s. Let me know. I'm going to post this onto the Facebook page, and the newsletter's gone out, so I'm really curious to see what people's stories will be and the feedback that I hear from this. So yeah, just let me know, can you relate to this? So that's about it. This is a very short one this week, but I will talk to you next week, and until then, look after you. Talk soon. Bye.